Hello, my fiber friends. Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be starting a new series on this channel. I am personally a fan of spooky stories, so I'm going to be starting a series on this channel called Phantom Fibers. This is where I'm going to be telling you scary stories that surround the fiber arts community, so it can be crochet, knitting, and so much more. I've been searching Reddit for some crochet horror stories, and I want to share them with you. Now, these are horror stories that actually include the paranormal. I didn't want it to be I lost my hook and it showed up 2 days later type of horror stories. I wanted something crazy, spooky. So, without further ado, I'm going to be sharing a few stories that I found on Reddit. So, let's begin. So while I filmed this Phantom Fibers spooky story time, I am going to be working on my Tunisian crochet halibut sweater, so feel free to listen to the story while I crochet. The first one was found on r/paranormal encounters. It was posted by user inspection dry 3023 1 year ago. A seance at my grandma's 80th birthday party changed my life. Hi Reddit. I've been a long-time lurker on this subreddit and other paranormal subreddits, but it's really just been for entertainment, and I've never commented or posted anything here until now. I want to start off by saying that my whole life, I've never really believed in the paranormal. I'm a STEM girly, and I've always kind of had a I'll believe in it when I see it type of attitude about this kind of stuff. So I'm not really spiritual or religious. So up until now, I've always believed that when we die, we're just dead. There's no afterlife, no reincarnation, just nothing. I've just always thought that if there's not demonstrable scientific evidence of life after death, why should I believe it? But all has changed after the events of this last weekend. This weekend was my grandma's 80th birthday. For her birthday present, I completed a crochet afghan that her mom, my great grandmother, started making for her, but she passed away before it was finished. Everyone in the family had gotten an afghan except for my grandma. She was the last one and was always heartbroken that she only had half the blanket. I was so excited to give it to her because I knew how meaningful it was. The night before her party, I had a really strange dream. I remember walking down a familiar street in my hometown, then turning and walking up the steps of a house that also felt familiar, but I didn't immediately recognize it. I remember the front garden was full of cosmos and marigolds. In the dream, I walked through the open door and into the living room when I saw an old woman with her back facing me, sitting in a chair. She was softly singing along to a song I knew, but couldn't quite place. I walked around to her face and immediately recognized my grandma's afghan in her lap, the same one that I had just finished. And the woman holding it, crocheting, was my great grandmother. She died before I was born, but I recognized her from pictures I've seen in my grandma's house. When I woke up, I realized that the house was the same one that my grandma had grown up in. Though I had only ever driven past it, I know what the front of it looks like. And I've also known that my great grandmother's favorite flowers were cosmos and marigolds. Now, obviously, a lot of stuff about this dream struck me as odd, but especially the fact that I never remember my dreams, yet this one remained vivid in my mind. I brushed it off and assumed I was just feeling emotional in anticipation of giving my grandma her blanket, and went downstairs to help get our house ready for the party. The party went really well, and my grandma was overjoyed when she opened my gift. She cried happy tears and hugged me, thanking me over and over again for helping her mom be a part of the day. When the party had winded down and it was just me, my mom, and two of my great aunts left, my grandma told us that she wanted to do a seance. I was a bit shocked because she and her sisters were raised in a strict Catholic household. So, as far as I knew, Ouija boards were off limits. But she insisted, saying that the Afghan made her realize just how much she misses her mom, and that all she wanted on this milestone birthday was to talk to her one last time. My mom, who's extremely spiritual, she practiced Wicca through her 20s, did happen to have a Ouija board in the house. So we got that, some black tourmaline and obsidian crystal towers for protection, per my mom, candles, and the Afghan to help us connect with her spirit. We set it all up in the kitchen, and my mom started the seance, calling out to my great grandmother's spirit. We sat there for a really long time, waiting for the planchette to move, but but it just stayed still. After about 20 minutes of nothing, my grandma, with tears in her eyes, suggested that we give up. Right after she spoke, the planchette began moving to the no position. We asked if there was someone here with us, and it moved to yes. We asked for a name, and it spelled out Cordy. My great grandmother's name was Cordelia, but everyone called her Cordy. My grandma and her sisters stared in disbelief. One of them even started crying a little. My grandma began to speak, telling her that she misses her wildly with all her heart, that she thinks about her all the time and sees a bird. That was their thing. And how she wishes that my brother and I could have met her. At this point, it might have been useful to mention that my great grandmother was an immigrant from Mexico, and although she spoke English fluently, she always preferred Spanish. The next thing that the planchette spelled out was my childhood nickname, followed by mucho gusto, nice to meet you. At this point, even I started crying. I didn't believe in ghosts or Ouija boards, but that got me. After all, the messages kind of got weird and almost seemed incoherent. First, she said, I'm going to butcher this Spanish, and I am so sorry. Hoy por ser, followed by la luna ya, todos las flores, la luz. Again, I'm so sorry. I didn't take Spanish in high school. En tu cama, and finally, ya bien. The Spanish speakers here are probably wondering, WTF? Oh, I am a little bit. Or maybe you figured it out quicker than I did, because none of these messages make a ton of sense, especially not when put together. Respectively, they roughly translate today to be, the moon already, all the flowers, already the light, in your bed, and it is coming. We got a little freaked out. My mom warned us that incoherent messages in our gibberish can be a sign that we've contacted something dangerous and insisted that we end the session immediately. So we quickly said goodbye, and that was it. We kept looking over the messages, trying to make sense of them. We put them in different orders, trying to make a coherent sentence, and even tried to fill in the blanks. All to no avail. Rearranged them back to the order we got them, and after staring at it for a good while, I thought of something. I did a quick Google search and confirmed my suspicions. They weren't gibberish or random phrases, they were song lyrics. My great grandmother was sending us lyrics to the song Las Manitas, a birthday song she used to sing to my grandma every morning on her birthday. I still don't really get why the messages were so weird and disconnected, so if anyone has any insight about that, I would really love to hear. My grandma was so touched and said it was her best birthday since the last one she spent with her mom. She was so happy to have her mom singing her birthday song one last time. As I went to bed that night, I was hit with the final realization. There was a reason I knew the song my grandma was singing in the dream. The song was Las Manitas. Again, I'm butchering that and I apologize. I don't know what all this means. I've been struggling with reconciling these events with everything I've believed. The rational part of my brain is still trying to come up with the plausible explanations. It was just a dream. Maybe I smoked too much weed that night before I went to bed. Maybe someone was pushing the planchette. Maybe they didn't even realize they were moving it. But I feel like I'm just grasping at straws and I really have no idea what happened or why it happened. I'm posting on here to share this story, but also because I'm kind of hoping someone with more experience is kind of in this kind of stuff can help me understand. So that was the first story. I think it's really interesting because I actually think the great grandmother's spirit was latched onto that unfinished Afghan blanket. And as the granddaughter was finishing her blanket for her grandmother, I think that spirit also maybe attached herself, or the great grandmother's spirit attached herself to the great granddaughter, to maybe express her gratitude for how thankful she was for finishing that blanket for her daughter, which was the granddaughter's grandma. A little confusing. Okay, so I'm going to leave that here as the first story for this Phantom Fibers series. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think. And if you have spooky paranormal crochet or any fiber art stories you'd like to share, leave them down in the comments, and I would love to share them in my upcoming videos. Bye bye. Have a spooky day.